Hello, Canned Cream here, CC for short, and today I would like to open up the archives and revisit some old topics. MLP is a very large and ever-expanding entity, and the ideas and headcanons that seem pretty solid one day can be changed the next. And a perfect example to start us off comes from the Secondary Six, an episode where I explored who among the MLP's cast could fill the roles left by Twilight and her friends, with Derpy as kindness, Cheerilee as generosity, Shining Armor as loyalty, Big Mac as honesty, Zecora as magic, and Vinyl Scratch as laughter. Ever since the release of Pinkie Pride and the introduction of Cheese Sandwich, I've had numerous people ask if I still considered Vinyl to be an appropriate representation for laughter. And yes, I do, but is she the best representation? That's where I sadly have to say no. As someone who was inspired by Pinkie Pie in the first place and set out to model himself after the joy she brought to his own heart, Cheese Sandwich would be an unquestionable substitute for our Pink Party Pony. While the rest of my list still remains the same, I would definitely add Cheese. And speaking of adding things, and ham-fisted segues, let's jump even further back to a time when my audio was terrible and my editing was even worse, and return to the subject of equestrian history. In this episode, I attempted to map out the major events presented in MLP's history into one coherent timeline. But since the ending of Season 4, we now have another major event to add to the list: the arrival of Tyrek and Scorpan. Surprisingly, there's not a lot of work to do here, since Celestia gives us a very clear description with a ton of clues. We know that by the time Scorpan arrived in Equestria, both Celestia and Luna were in power, and that Starswirl the Bearded was still acting as their advisor. So we can pretty safely assume this puts us after the fall of Discord, but before the banishment of Luna. Or to go by my own personal categories, we'd be somewhere in the 4th era, the era of the two sisters. We can probably narrow things down even further if we choose to bring the comic series into canon here. During the Reflections arc, Celestia makes the comment about realizing her sister Luna was changing, referring to her early stage to becoming Nightmare Moon, but did nothing because she was instead preoccupied with universe hopping to an alternate Equestria to be with that timeline's Sombra. During these events, an elderly Starswirl plays a major role, and during the events with Scorpan, Celestia seems to be describing him as being at a similar age. Based upon this combination of factors, we are likely just before the discovery of the magic mirror and the beginnings of Luna's transformation, possibly only by a few years, putting us very close to the end of the 4th era. After which came what I can only assume was 1,000 years of boredom. I mean, there wasn't a Luna, so what could have possibly been going on? And speaking of Luna and comics, let's talk about that some more, shall we? During my topic of Could Luna Rule Alone, I explored whether or not Luna could rule alone. Clever title, I know. In an act which should surprise no one, I decided that yes, Luna was fully capable of taking over as the sole ruler of Equestria if needed. And some people took issue with this, suggesting that I read the MLP microcomic that explores this very topic. Well, guess what? I just freaking did. And you know what else? It proved me right. While throughout the entirety of the comic, Luna is shown to be overwhelmed, that's true, there are two very important factors I feel that are worth pointing out. 1. Despite the chaos, at no point is Luna shown to have made a mistake that would later need to be fixed. And 2. Luna was trying to do everything Celestia's way. The two may be sisters, but they are not interchangeable. While Celestia clearly works best going off of a schedule with clearly defined start and finishing times and goals, Luna is far more organic. She best handles problems at her own pace, dealing with what she feels is most important first, and giving each case its own unique length of attention. While Luna struggles throughout the entirety of the comic to keep her head above water, it's when she finally throws away the schedule and does things her own way that she hits her stride. While we only see a single panel of this in action, it clearly shows work getting done and both Luna and the ponies of Equestria happy. So I say that this comic, this canon comic, which so many of you seem happy to remind me of, only backs up the theory that I laid down. Luna is fully capable of ruling both the night and the day. Can she do it exactly as Celestia did? Well, no, clearly not. But she could do it in her own way. And with that, we wrap up my very first Revisal episode. So, what did you think, dear listener? Is there an old topic I've done that you think deserves a revisit? Or can you think of a time when your own thoughts and theories about MLP have been changed based upon what the show or the comics have done? Please post your own thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and as always,
stay pony, my friends.